I'm Dr. Mike Jankowski-Lorek. I'm Director of Consulting and Cybersecurity Expert working for Secure, company established by Paul Henschke more than 12 years ago, and we are working all over the world to providing services related to the cybersecurity, configuration review, penetration testing, consulting, emergency responses, lots of things related to the cybersecurity. We also love to share the knowledge through the trainings and through the conferences like RSA. Personally, I'm specializing in identity solutions. And that's why I'm here today with you to share thoughts about modern identity and remote working. Let's start. Digital transformation has rapidly increased its pace since the beginning of COVID-19. Organizations previously were just working at office, maybe a little bit working remotely through the VPN. But that has changed. We were forced to switch to remote work or at least some kind of mixed type of work. This is introducing a completely new type of security-related challenges. One of them is accessing corporate resources. According to the International Workspace Group report already created in 2019, it was more than 50% of employees globally working at least 2.5 days per week, not from work. Now, during the COVID-19 pandemic, these numbers are completely different, and they are much, much higher. At the same time, Cybersecurity Infrastructure Agency, CISA, encourages organizations to adopt the high-end state of cybersecurity. Okay? With the beginning of the global pandemic, organizations had changed their work style. And what was the easiest solution? Give everyone access to the VPN. Why? In most cases, it was already in place, just a new group of employees were granted with access. It's straightforward concept for employees, no additional training needed or just an onboarding. It gives similar experience like connecting to the system inside of the organization, and it's easy to adopt. In the warning that CISA was generating in March 13, 2020, regarding enterprise VPN security, especially emphasizing that targeting with the phishing and identity tab for all organizations without MFA. So everyone that has not yet adopted MFA will be definitely targeted by the attackers. Limited capabilities of IT security personnel to perform cybersecurity tasks on VPN access, logging, detection of the attacks, anomaly detection. That's something that is missing when you are getting through the VPN. Watch out for that one and also increase this visibility. This shows that the first simplest and let's say the little legacy type of identity credentials, just like a username or password, is going to be more targeted than ever before. This is also that we are observing during multiple incidents and emergency services that we've been providing throughout a couple of last months. The first phase of attack always looks the same. That is the attacker is sending a good phishing campaign and is harvesting some credentials of the users. Then they are connecting through the VPN because there is no MFA enabled. So the traditional credentials, let's say, and the easiest way to verify their identity with the username and password is really failing us here because it's so easy to harvest someone's credentials. Okay? The next phase, of course, it's a remote elevation of privileges through some vulnerabilities in your network, because maybe you've been not thinking about protecting it so well because, there is inside of your network. They are not exposed externally. Now, through the VPN, they are visible. Then exfiltrating the data and deploying the ransomware. This is usual path of the attack. Okay, but let's not focus yet so much on the VPN. What are other requirements or options for the remote work? Okay, first of all, sharing the data with the users. You should have already in place a good collaboration solution, let's say SharePoint or whatever. But also, if you don't have it, you will see that users will share it through the mail. Different versions of the same file. That's really bad because in case of business email compromise, those all files will be visible. The second thing is access on-premise databases. Usually it's done through the VPN. Now, nothing we can do here unless there is an application in front. If there is some web application, you can go with application proxy, incorporate the MFA, and, for example, modern authentication for those systems. Accessing business applications from anywhere, everywhere, and all the time, it is a good thing to have. But not every application is already prepared for being available publicly. Remember that the security boundary is changing in such case. So different identification of the user, authentication and authorization for this case. And the last part, which is very important, that you need to think about trusted devices to process the data securely, because the strongest authentication, the strongest authorization can be bypassed if your environment in which you are processing the data is not secure and is already compromised by the attacker. So what are the main risks of the remote work? Connecting private computers or not well-managed computers to the corporate network systems. That's something that is really, really dangerous. Also, problems with patching for services like VPN. They are accessed 24/7. So there is no time for rebooting. There's no time for patching it. You need to develop a plan for that one. Because if there is an issue with it, recently we had a couple of CVEs that are related to those kind of accesses, then you will expose attacks and expose, for example, identities as well for the accessing internally the systems. Increased phishing campaigns targeting your credentials. Nothing to do about that one. You can increase the filters, you can just educate the users, but really not much can be done here unless you change to the different kind of credentials. Business email compromise scenarios, especially painful for organizations with lack of good solutions, which I already mentioned, for data sharing. So to get the files to the users and to work at the same file together. Problems with the VPN access, performance, stability of it. And this is something that's increasing all the time. Of course, we have a couple of options of bypassing this or rather mitigating it. But remember, it's always changing. So before we jump to the demo and the attacks, couple more of statistics. How many % of employees in question were using each of the devices for work? Majority is using desktop or notebooks. Smartphone, tablets, not so much. Only 19% of questioned employees has not used any kind of devices, personal devices, to access the corporate data. So even if you distribute the notebooks from company, they are still using also the data on their own devices. Second statistics are about the devices that store the data, corporate data, on a personal type of the devices. Desktop, laptops, smartphones, and tablets. As you can see, most of those are the desktop and laptops. So the ones that employees use the most. And how about controlling those devices? 65% of IT professionals responded that does not have tools to manage not company devices. 44% seen increase in help desk work after switching to the remote work. This is two factors that are really contributing to the problems of the IT infrastructure. So what can go wrong really with this? First demo, it's about the attacks on the remote work. I will start with the VPN pivoting. And you may be wondering why this attack has been chosen by me to show an attack for modern identity. Imagine that VPN connection is not based on the username and password. Imagine it's not even MFA protected, but it's based on the certificates. Right? So for the computer or for the user. So it's a strong authentication. And this is a good way of protecting the identity. At the same time, we still can attack the corporate resources by pivoting to the device that it already established a connection to the environment. Let's see how this one works. So, first of all, let's set up the stage. I'm setting up right now that the user is going to connect from the environment to the VPN. So let's see what are the connections. Can I ping the server? This is the SRV01 raccoons.pl. That's it. It's not working until I will be able to connect with the VPN. It's just showing that I'm outside of the network. The server not reachable, so let's connect inside. This is already pre-configured VPN. That's very simple to connect. And the moment that I'm connecting, I will be able to reach this server again. It will take some time for the ping, but the refreshing of the page is very, very fast. So it's some legacy JBoss server. For those of you who have seen this one, it's probably vulnerable for many different types of the attack. So what's the attacker can do right now to get to my systems? First of all, imagine that I have already here a Kali Linux, a Kali Linux that was prepared for the attack. Let's see if I am able to get to the same server. This time it's a ping for the IP address. Okay, I'm a little bit cheating here because from the perspective of the attacker, he should not know the IP address of the server that it's going to attack. But in such case, let's say that we already know this to speed up the process of the demo. It's connected into the network, which is 192.168.201. It can be anywhere around the world. Just it's about knowing the IP address. It's the ending of the 100, because what this server will be used for? This will be used for the command and control. So I'm switching to the Metasploit. It's a very common framework for penetration testing, or for example, for playing around with the environment. And I'm setting up a couple of settings. First of all, I'm going to use the multi-handler for handling different connections, incoming connections. It's important. The connection is started from the workstation to my server, to my Kali Linux. And there is, of course, the IP address of my local Kali Linux. So this is the server that will be accepting the connections. And the port is 444 for getting the connections. Now, it's setting up the payload for the Meterpreter, is reverse TCP, and starting the exploit. So it's starting to listen on the port 444, waiting for incoming connections. What is important here? It's that the connection is coming from the Windows 10 machine. I'm not connecting from the Kali Linux to the Windows 10 machine, but I'm connecting from the Windows 10 machine inside to the Kali Linux. This part was not visible because there is already a malware that is constantly running on the Windows 10 machine. Right now, I'm only focusing on the part in which the machine already has a malware running and it's connecting back to my Kali Linux. This will allow me to get this connection no matter from where. The connection that we have here can be exploited. I can just simply start controlling this computer, and it's no matter if there is a firewall in between or that I can see this same system on the same session. It is only possible, of course, if the connections, outgoing connections from the Windows 10 machine are allowed to get to my system. So let's see what are the sessions. The session is right now still active. The session ID is number 1. So I'm interactively connecting to the session number 1. And this is starting the Meterpreter. The first thing which I can do is get just simply to the shell, showing that who am I. This is like a CMD in the remote host. The second thing is that I have the IP configuration. So this is one of the networks is 92, but the second one is 10.10.10.151 because this is the VPN connected computer. So this computer is in 2 different places at the same time. It is connected to the VPN, and it's connected also to some access to the internet, of course, because it needs to have access to the remote resources. What else can be done there? Let's start if it's possible for me to extract the credentials, for example, which can be stored inside of the VPN connections. I have a tool, which is an OpenVPN extraction tool that I've written. This is very simple PowerShell script that is extracting saved information that are inside of the registry of the Windows. So if you think about saving somewhere credentials, think about this, who can access those credentials as well. Storing this kind of username passwords, very easy to extract. Whenever you are saving the passwords, remember someone can steal it. Then Meterpreter is, I'm getting back to the Meterpreter, and I'm going to send this session into the background because I want to switch from the Meterpreter this time to the different module. So still this session exists. There is an established connection. I can communicate with the Windows 10 machine. And I want to use this auxiliary module, which is the server, and this is SOX4A. This is the service that allows me to just simply use it as a proxy. It's listening on the port 1080, but before running it, I need to add one more thing. I want to access the route, and you've seen the network to which it was connected. So it was 10.10.10.0 with the 24-bit. So it's 255, 255, 255, 0, because this is a representation of 24 bits. And of course, there is the interface. But the interface this time, it's a session ID. So this is the same as previously I was displaying and connecting to it. Session ID 1. In such case, I'm just simply connecting route added, and now I can run the proxy server. So on my Kali Linux, I have a proxy server. And at the time I'm connecting to that proxy server, see, there is nothing really as an IP address. Whenever I'm trying to get to that one directly, no, there is no connection. But if I use a proxy, in such case, I will use proxy chains, I will be able to get to my system and get to the inside of the network, of the corporate network there. Okay? So as you can see, I'm scanning right now, and there is a port 8080 available, and it's connection okay, because I'm connecting to the local host, then going through the tunnel to get to the remote host. And then really who is scanning? The Windows 10 machine is scanning, not my Kali Linux. But I'm executing the commands and bouncing all the network traffic through that VPN connection that was established on a compromised server. So even without knowing the credentials. Okay, how about Firefox? I started the Firefox as a proxy chain, and as you can see, it's also available for me right now. So that's something that's quite commonly used for accessing an externally available networks. How this looks like. So just to have a small recap here. The computer was compromised. It might be like corporate computer, or it might be personal computer that has an established connection through the VPN. So this computer has access to the VPN, okay, and has access to the company servers, company resources. Next, this computer was compromised with a malware. This phase I was not showing because there's so many different ways of how it can be done. It can be, for example, through the special kind of malware that was installed there, or anything similar. And it's connecting to my command and control computer. So this was my Kali Linux. This is the computer that is controlled by the attacker. And he was just issuing the commands through this server, through this computer, to get to the servers inside. So it's like a tunnel that is initiated from this Windows 10 machine, not only to the VPN, but the same Windows 10 machine with the malware is initiating connection to the command and control center, which allows bouncing over to get to the company resources. So as you have seen, this attack can be used no matter what kind of credentials or identity verification is done on the VPN. Also works with the most modern identity. No matter if it's a certificates, it's MFA on the VPN, you can just simply use it and to attack it. Okay, so now it's time for something more modern than VPN. Organizations which were created recently can be fully cloud-based, or they can be very fastly adopting some new principles. One of those is zero trust principle. It's easy to adopt it for cloud-based only. For hybrid environments, or those which are on-site only, on-premise environments, it's a little bit more difficult. But it's very good idea to even start adopting partially the zero trust model. What are the three principles of the zero trust? What that everyone is talking about right now is never trust, always verify. So always authenticate and authorize all incoming requests, including user identity, location, device health, data classification, and try to detect the anomalies. So all of those elements are building this always verify element. The second thing is least privilege, assigned no matter what. So this is the minimum subset of privileges and permissions that are assigned to the users, or in general identities, to perform the task that they need to do. It's also risk-based adaptive policies which are protecting the data breaches. For example, you are outside of your normal working hours, or you are outside of your normal, let's say, standard locations in which you are working. You are getting less privileges. You do not have access to the most sensitive data. Then the last part is always assume the breach. So you don't trust any device. No matter if this is the computer of your colleague, which is next to you, if this is the server that is controlled by your colleague from IT department, you always assume that that device, that process, that request is a hostile request. You should always encrypt all traffic, end-to-end encryption, no matter what. Use analytics to get a visibility and detection of the threats, and detect the anomalies on it. So why we are focusing so much on the identity and the protection of it? It's all about the evolution of security perimeter. For the organization at the beginning, there was a physical security. Big fence, guard, dog, maybe a moat with the alligators inside. Next, we connected the computers, connected to the internet, and there is a new perimeter, the network, especially the perimeter network, DMZ, external access. This is what was protected. But this has changed. Right now, we are living and working in the hyper-connected world, where your smartwatch is connecting to the mail server, where a car is getting information from your phone, and all connected to the internet, with the majority of the applications available all over the world, no matter where are you. So what is one thing that is giving you access to all of these devices and data? It's your identity. So you need to protect it. And you can protect it in, let's say, in the classic way, like username, password, or you can go a little bit more modern way, which is more secure as well on that. So what's the simplest way to protect identity, which is good set of credentials? And what's the easiest way to mitigate classic passwords attack? It's MFA, multi-factor authentication. So what's about that? At least two factors. What are the factors? Something you know, something you have, something you are. You are, so for example, biometric verification. Please never send the biometric identification over the network. Biometric is very good, but to unlock something like a strong credentials, like a asymmetric keys. And don't transfer it, because it is not changeable. Something you have, you can change a smart card. Password, so something you know, you can change it. But biometric, I have 10 fingers, and only this is the number of different data that I have about me if it's going to be a fingerprint. With the iris scan, only 2 eyes. So not a good idea to lose it. Okay, somewhere you are. So where are you? depending on the location. If it's your standard IP addresses, somewhere your geolocation, it might disable MFA for you. This is a conditional access for this, and that's good. So, is it really possible to break the MFA? Let's see how secure is MFA. Let's switch to the next demo. So I'm connecting right now to the and again, Linux machine. This Linux machine is publicly available. I was connecting to it from external source to the external IP address, and I'm starting the Evil Nginx. Evil Nginx is a set of the tool that is configured right now for me for the spoofing of the identity of Microsoft, because I'm sending a message as a domain Microsoft Online.com CO, and this is the template for the message in which you have like a Teams message that you have some messages not received yet or not replied to, and I'm sending it from the domain that is similar to the Microsoft domain. Okay, what's happening next? I'm just going to show how this mail looks like when the user receives it. Okay? User gets the mail, this is a brand new mail, and it's opening it inside of the web browser or on the Outlook, doesn't matter. He is clicking on the link and is redirected to the microsoftonline.com.co. The login and everything is looking perfectly fine. Just watch out that there is a different domain name in the URL. It's authenticating with his username and password. Okay, but he is safe. He has a MFA. Now you see that it's challenging him for the MFA. At the same time, the same operation is happening in the background to the real Microsoft web page. And after user authenticates and provides the credentials, he is redirected to the official Microsoft page. So he's not suspecting anything here, and it all looks good. So, as you can see, he's getting messages. He's getting something like getting also information from the site. And the Kali Linux is displaying right now on the Evil Nginx here the information about this user. And there is authentication for this with the password, and also that all authorization tokens intercepted. So as you can see, also I have a session which is working here, and it's allowing me to get to those credentials, also to all the tokens that were issued. So now it's just a case of getting the token into the browser and not passing through the password anymore, not being bothered by any kind of MFA, anything like that. Okay, let's go back. So how about even more modern authentication than using MFA? How about using the strong authentication, which is Windows Hello for Business? It replaces the password with strong two-factor authentication on PC and mobile devices. This is consists of a new type of the credentials, which are the NGC, that are tied to the device and use the biometric verification, like or maybe PIN, to unlock the credentials. But the biometric or the PIN is never sent on the network. Only the NGC is used to confirm the identity. So this is the most modern type of the credentials that we have. And it's addressed the problems of the strong passwords, also the breaches on the server, exposed the network credentials, all of those. They can be used for authenticate to the Microsoft account, Active Directory account, Microsoft Azure Active Directory, or to any other relying party through the ADFS, for example. But also the Windows Hello for Business might be used as a vector of an attack or as a persistency inside of the network. So let's try and see how this one looks like. This is already the configuration in which I have the privileged access. And right now I'm trying to leave the persistency for the future. Okay? That's important. I'm creating the new credentials, the self-signed certificate. As you can see, there is a self-signed certificate. That's very important, which is presenting the NGC. and I'm exporting it to the PFX file. For all of those operations, I'm going to use the DS internals module, the module created by my colleague Michael Grafnetter. And this is the certificate for some user seed. This user seed is used, as of course, from the domain because it's on the domain access, but similar attempts can be performed when we are accessing something on the network. The thing about the credentials is that they need to be imported inside of the Active Directory object. So I need to find the object of this user. This is the Yoda master user for me in the Raccoons domain. And I'm setting the MSDS key credential link to exactly this NGC keys. So it's in the binary format. I'm writing into the Active Directory those credentials. Okay, so I'm signing out because I don't want to be an admin anymore. And I want to show that there is a user. It's a local user. That's very important. It will be a local user, so it's nothing that I have permissions on the domain. Just I need to have an access to this PFX file to have access to the NGCs, because it's based on the certificate, but it really inside of the Active Directory, and it's not visible as the certificate. Okay, so let's start the CMD, and let's try to get to the domain controller. Or okay, first who am I? But it will be easier. I'm not a domain user. It's only built-in users, nothing from the domain. And let's try to get to the domain controller. In this case, it's Raccoons PL, and the network path was not found. So yeah, so that's the wrong server, but okay. It should be the SDC, I think. Here, let's correct this one. Oh, DC1. Yeah, that's correct. DC1. So the next thing is that I'm going to use exactly the same credentials, or rather use the same PowerShell tools. So this time it's Kekko. And in the Kekko, this is created by Benjamin Delpy. I will be requesting the TGT, ticket granting ticket, because I'm on premise. Okay, so that's one of the things that it's possible. But no matter where are you can request this token if it's available for your NGC credentials. NGC credentials are also for the cloud, but slightly different path would be used if accessing the Azure AD. Right now, I'm importing the PFX because previous attempt was not correct. I'm importing the PFX. This is the self-sign certificate that was generated with the NGCs. And after the successfully importing the NGCs, I'm able to get to my system, because I'm requesting right now the PAC, and this is the TGT. And the second thing is that I already see here a password hash for the NTLM. So based on the NGCs, which are the newest type of the credentials, I can get the old one. Okay? And this is still giving me a possibility of getting to the environment with for the resources that are not using NGCs or not using the Kerberos. So that's quite simple. I can also use it with the /ptt to get the Kerberos ticket right away. And in such case, I can list it. So it's not that I need to use it separately, but just simply get the console or use the same console to authenticate to any resources. For example, to the domain controller. And you can imagine what I can do with that one when it's starting exactly like this. And that I can get to the, for example, ntds.dit or any other location. Okay, remember, this is the persistency in the Active Directory, which is using the newest Windows Hello for Business. This is something that is sometimes neglected in the environment. To be able to perform this kind of attack, remember that the only one necessary thing is that there is some certificate inside of the NT out in the environment. Okay, those were a couple of attacks that were using different kind of identities. For example, the first one was the VPN pivoting, which showed you that even with the most modern authentication to the VPN, it is still danger. Okay? So have the attackers adjusted to the new reality that everyone is working remotely? Yeah, sure. For that, definitely. The VPN pivoting constantly. Remember MFA definitely on that one. Then the second attack was about the getting and bypassing the MFA. The last part is really about the Windows Hello for Business, so also using the newest type of the credentials. So how to mitigate the remote access and the problems with the remote method? Even that I was showing how to bypass MFA, it is still much better to have it than not to have it. Increase the visibility on your VPN and what your remote workers are doing. Ensure that there is appropriate training for the IT personnel to handle the cases with the VPN. Okay? What are the long-term mitigations? So those which are not including just simply the VPN itself. Well-written and tested incident response plans, evolving and including the complete remote access scenarios. No matter what is your remote access scenario. Is it the proxy servers, ref proxy, if it's the VPN, doesn't matter. Include this because your security plane has changed and the surface of attack has changed. Assume the breach. Embed the VPN as a critical attack vector, if you are using VPN, on the threat map and your ongoing security monitoring. Security monitoring for the VPNs must have. Design and introduce access authentication authorization to the resources regardless of the user location and the way of authenticating, accessing the resources. Try not to use the legacy identity credentials with the username and password. Go with something more modern, certificates, Windows Hello for Business, anything is better than this. Start your journey through the Zero Trust. Adopt your solution to verify identity and access regardless of user location. Remember, implement passwordless authentication. That's also a good idea because passwords are constantly breached. I hope you enjoyed the session and that you will adjust to the remote work as well the protecting of the remote work as the attackers are adjusting to it to try to breach your security.